Alright, I think this is supposed to be recording, and I'm going to start it here. Hey, thank you for checking in. I just did the take, and it didn't come out that too good, so I'm going to try it again real quick here, and I'm going to try to go as fast as possible for you so we can get through this and get cruising. So here's a list of the important people we're going to talk about throughout this slideshow. It includes King Louis, Marie Antoinette, the Estates General, National Assembly, Robespierre, and Napoleon Bonaparte. Some important places we're going to talk about include the Palace of Versailles, the tennis courts, we'll find out more about that, the Bastille, Place de la Concorde, Napoleonic Wars, and Waterloo. Alright, so let's get to the meat of this. So the lead-ups to the French Revolution. Now, before the revolution took place, France was ruled by what was called an absolute monarch, which means they had absolute power, so they could do whatever they wanted, including building this massive estate that you see in this picture here, which is the Palace of Versailles. Now, what was so expensive and lavish about the Palace of Versailles was not necessarily the building itself, but look at all these gardens around it. I'm pointing with my finger, but you can probably see with the mouse better. Look at all these gardens around it. That was very expensive to upkeep, so that is where most of the money went. And the food that was going on, the parties, and all of the lavish lifestyle was just getting very expensive. To pay for this, he taxed the poor heavily. And by heavily, I mean 97% of the taxes were on the poor. And a lot of it came down to just this building of the Palace of Versailles, right? Now, the Estates General. So King Louis is so dead broke that he needs to ask for more money by raising taxes. And it goes to a vote at what's called the Estates General. So you host this general, and the three groups come together. You have the first estate, which is going to be the clergy, the second estate, which is going to be the nobility, and the third estate, which is going to be the peasants. Each one of them having one vote on taxation, so it's similar to that of like a brother and sister and another sister or something wanting to watch. The two sisters want to watch Barbie, the brother wants to watch Oppenheimer, the brother gets outvoted every time, and eventually he's going to get very upset. And that's what happens here at the Estates General. And when they call for the vote, of course it gets passed through because the first and second estate vote for it, but the third estate are pretty upset. So they leave, they go to a tennis court, and they form what's called the National Assembly. The National Assembly is now a separate government within France that is trying to promote a constitutional monarchy, or like having a constitution that represents that the peasants cannot be bullied and used as they are for taxes. What you see here for these little red bonnets are going to be the revolutionary symbol for a lot of this. You'll see that in political cartoons. You will definitely see it on the Regents. That's like a symbol of the French Revolution from the point of view of the third estate, the peasants. The storming of the Bastille is one of the big kickoffs of the revolution. It's considered the start of the bloody portion of the revolution. The Bastille was a prison, and it was taken over by peasants. A lot of them were women who were hungry, and it was stormed not only to break out prisoners. They wanted to break out all these prisoners, but there was actually only 8 people being held in this prison at the time. But they wanted to get gunpowder so that they could continue to defend themselves or attack during the revolution. They were successful in both. The gunpowder was seized, and they freed their prisoners. And this is a symbol of the start of having a constitutional country in France. Now we have the 4th of July for our Declaration of Independence. The French have Bastille Day, which is July 14th. Bastille Day. It's the same exact kind of style holiday, minus the hot dogs because they're not cool like us. This leads to the fall of Louis. So King Louis is shocked by all this. He says he will make concessions, or he'll meet the demands of some of the peasants, but he never does. So he refuses eventually to make any true concessions. Food shortages are still increasing. There's bread riots, and when people are hungry for more than 3 days, I've told you, they will have a revolution. So what happens is women go on, and it's mainly women, had a bread riot, and they continued, and they stormed the Palace of Versailles, and they took out the entire royal family and brought them to what is now known as the Louvre, and they held them in the Louvre in Paris. So the Palace of Versailles is actually like 20 minutes outside of Paris. It's nice. It's like being in the suburbs, right? Where they bring them back into the city because they want them to see how bad the city is, how bad the capital of the country is, how poor people are, how much they stink, and make them aware of the problems. Now, when they're in prison there, they originally didn't want to kill them because they would have killed them immediately probably, but what they end up doing is actually executing them 6 months later. They face a trial, and they eventually put King Louis to the guillotine. Marie Antoinette will follow later on. She actually hears the bells ring, and then the crowd cheer when her husband's head gets chopped off. So that's pretty morbid. But she will follow suit with them. And there's a really neat book where they talk about how they lived during this time and like how normal things were. It was weird. They still did studying in school, completely not believing that they would be executed. So it was kind of a shock. So this leads to the important event of the Reign of Terror. Robespierre, who I mentioned earlier, leads a bloodthirsty killing of around 20,000 people. Estimates have put it between 20 and 60, so we could say 40,000 people were sent to the guillotine. These people were people who had wealth, land, or were against the revolution. The thought being, if we kill people with money, the money will disperse throughout society. We will purge these rich people out of our society, and it is bloody. Now, the guillotine itself is used because it's a source of equality. No matter what, you die like a quick death. It's pretty painless for the most part. I mean, you're dead, but like it's just real quick. And it's equal because no matter what, it's a good death. The kings can die by it. Peasants die by it. It's an equal death. The same result. Your head gets chopped off. Before, if they were to chop off heads, I guess this is an interesting little tangent. You used to have to like tip the guy to do a nice clean cut. You would give him like money and they would do like a clean cut, and if you didn't, he might have to go back 2 or 3 times, which is awful. So this was a really cool way for equality for people to be executed, I guess. Now when this is going on, after a year of bloodshed, thousands and thousands of heads being chopped off, people decide Robespierre maybe took it a little too far, and is in turn actually guillotined himself. Robespierre is going to be the de facto leader during this time. The king is dead, but we still need someone to tell us what to do. And Robespierre steps up and fills that position. And he ends up just taking it too far and faces the guillotine himself. Now, in this picture here, we see something that happened a lot during the Revolution, which is when they put people's heads on a spike, pretty metal, and they would march them around the streets. And I think you've seen that on the Assassin's Creed video before. Alright, bear with me with this. The Napoleon here is kind of thick. The picture is stretched, so he wasn't like a chubby little guy. I don't know, he looks funny in this, so just deal with me. But that is Napoleon. During all this bloodshed, Robespierre is dead. All these different crazy things are going on. France is in turmoil, and this strong leader, very nationalistic leader, marches into Paris and just takes power. He marches in with his soldiers, and he's like, is anyone going to tell me not to? And ironically, one person slapped him, like across the face, and he still took power, which is kind of a funny thing. He declares himself the first consul, or the emperor of Paris, and then he continues on warring throughout Europe, and he actually basically controls all of Europe from France to Russia, and goes through Moscow. And he did a lot in Paris, or France. He instituted what was called the Napoleonic Code, which is going to be like clear and concise laws for everybody to follow, which is huge. It's kind of like Hammurabi's Code, but not so much eye for an eye. He promoted education, like public schools, so now the poor could be educated, which is huge. He did help the French economy. Taking over half of Europe definitely helps that as well. But he did some actual economic finagling with the numbers to make France doing a lot better, trade-wise and stuff. Now, a big negative that he did not do, or a big positive he could have done, but he didn't, so therefore it's a negative, was women's rights, like voting. He had a terrible view of women. He was a pretty toxic guy. He did not like women, and his actions showed that. On top of all of these things, for the peasants, what they probably are most concerned were is he actually brought back food and bread into Paris and stopped the bloodshed. So with those two things, they were like, okay, this is better than it was before, so we'll take it, right? Now the results of the French Revolution, it kind of ends on like a weird note where Napoleon is ousted, He is sent to an island out in the middle of nowhere that we saw, and they have a constitutional monarchy, and they kind of go back to where they started, but not as intense. So that's like a weird result. Eventually, they will have their own democracy, right? But in the meantime, it was also a great display of the Enlightenment ideals from the enlightened philosophers like John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. You saw the Enlightenment ideals in action; they were expressed, and we still use that to study today. It's in all of our legal codes. It's in their legal codes. You have like the rights of man. All of those things were expressed and enacted, right? And finally, like revolution or protest is kind of a part of the French identity to this day. For 2 years, about a year, the French were rioting in the streets because the taxes, the retirement age got raised from 60 to 62, and they literally rioted in Paris for like a year straight. Meanwhile, keep in mind, the retirement age in America is 65. So they do not like being walked on or used by the big government. And in short here, we have we have the enduring issues examples, which for your essay, there are a lot that could be used from this era. So for social inequality, the estate system is a great example of that. No matter what, the estate system, if you were in the wrong estate, you would not be able to overcome the inequality going on there. The taxation inequality, the voting right inequality, the experience in life inequality. It was not a socially equitable system. Now, power is an interesting one too, because with the estate system, you can use that as an example, or you can use the reign of terror, because power was, power in the estate system, the two had power over the one, and the reign of terror, the guy that got his head chopped off didn't have power, right? Or you can even talk about the absolute monarchy. So for conflict, the reign of terror or Napoleonic Wars, there's a lot of conflict going on there. You can use either of those two for an example. As far as innovation is concerned, the innovative way of killing people through execution and the guillotine is the main one that comes to mind. Napoleon also had like an innovative way to use artillery. If you want to look that up sometime. And then last but not least, there is a huge side of nationalism with Napoleon Bonaparte. He was a very strong leader. He was a very patriotic leader. He wanted France to do well. He was thinking France first the whole time. So that is a big example of nationalism. And he thought France was so powerful that they should be strong, big, and take over other countries. And he did. Until they took him over. So that's going to be it for this. What I want you to do is to fill out those worksheets I gave you. They do not have to be filled out completely, right? Just a couple notes of the important people and just some of the effects, cause and effect. Because the government was weak, Napoleon took over. Because the people were hungry, they killed the king. You can go through and fill those out, and when you hand them to me, we'll be all set. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for watching this. And I don't know how to end this, so I'm going to stop sharing, and then like maybe do this, and then maybe do this, and then I'm still doing this, and there. Thank you.